Hello, everybody. Welcome. Anna Sabramowicz here. Welcome to this episode. It's so great to have you. Now, in this episode, we're going to talk about Broken Coworker. What is Broken Coworker? It's an interactive story. And now, at the time of this recording, it's about 10 years old. Now, the thing that I wanted to talk to you about today is how you can model some key elements of Broken Coworker to craft your own interactive story, how you can start, getting these kinds of projects under your belt and create a repertoire of excellent, interactive, engaging e-learning. So there's three key elements that I wanted to really emphasize in the walkthrough that I'm going to do today, and maybe give you some behind-the-scenes context about how this piece was developed, because I think a lot of people look at Broken Coworker, and if you haven't seen it before, my goodness, is this going to be a treat for you. But a lot of people look at Broken Coworker and maybe feel intimidated by it, or they think that they can't do it. Well, today I'm going to show you some strategies that will help reduce some of that overwhelm from that experience, okay? So, without further ado, let's get started. Now, first off, just the first three things we're really going to dig into while we're going through Broken Coworker is going to be the storytelling piece that makes it a go. There's going to be the piece that has to do with the learning outcome. And there's going to be the piece, which I think is very interesting for people who are interested in the mechanics behind Broken Coworker, which is the repeatable pattern that it instills at the very beginning that helps the audience get into the story without being lost in the user experience. So, without further ado, let's get started. Now, one of the things I did want to bring up with you is very quickly, when you saw that first page, the first thing we wanted to do is create some intrigue, create some interest. Now, this is a course about emotional intelligence, really. It's about helping somebody discover what that is. But one of the things you want to do is, instead of giving it all away with some academic name like Emotional Intelligence 101, we want the learner, the player, to figure it out on their own, to have an aha moment, because what you're trying to do is spark curiosity, because curiosity is huge. Most people are not interested in learning, they're not interested in e-learning, they're not interested in being taught things. They're interested in having problems solved. Now, you're competing with a whole bunch of other things out there like YouTube and Instagram. And now what you're doing is you're trying to create a curiosity that makes them want to check out the experience. So think about that when you're crafting your own piece, whether it's for an organization inside or for a portfolio piece. You want to create curiosity because that curiosity sparks action. So this part right here, an office like any other, my fiance and I moved here so I could work for this company, the opportunity I was waiting for, or so I thought. Now I regret the decision. I'm constantly stressed. It's affecting my personal life, and the quality of my work will today be my last day. The worst part of it is the way I feel has nothing to do with the company or my work. It's because of one person. This is that huge piece of storytelling that we talk about, which is explaining who the actual protagonist is. Because remember, storytelling has three elements. There's a protagonist, he wants something, and something is in the way. So we've introduced the protagonist. Emma. She's been here 7 years, the rock star, the goose that lays the boss's golden eggs, and the pain in my you can imagine what. I'll let you go through this, but one of the things you'll see here is I have to work with Emma, but if I can't learn to deal with her, I'm going to quit. So we've learned some things in just these 6 panels, 9 sentences, I believe. What happens is we've set up the character, his struggle, the thing that's getting in the way, and he's going to quit his dream job. So basically we have the story unfold, and this is supposed to create that empathy because we want to be able to help Sam overcome his bully. And here we go. Sam is on the verge of quitting a job he loves. If you were to help him communicate with Emma today, he might find the courage to stay. If you can't help Sam, he'll quit. Quitting won't help Sam learn how to deal with difficult people, and he'll go home with bad news and his confidence broken. Sam is already at the office. Hurry. Language here is very specific. You could have said right here, the goal of this module is for you to learn how to be more emotionally intelligent, learn how to deal with people who are aggressive or don't have a pleasing personality. But that's not helpful for people. What's important for them at this point is to get lost in the story of Sam and to feel compelled to help him solve this problem. And in the process, what we've also done is contextualized those learning outcomes in the context of his particular journey. And it makes it less formal, it makes it more interesting, it makes it more contextual, and then we can move on and want to actually help Sam solve this. Now, one of the things this is doing as well is realize this: people will go into e-learning thinking they already know everything that's going to happen in there. They already know how to deal with people. They already are competent leaders. They're, all those things. So right here, what we're doing is we're saying, this isn't about you. Don't worry about it. This is about Sam. Let's help Sam. And in the process, you might discover it's about you too, right? So let's do that. Okay. And we're doing a lot of things with language here. Sam is already at the office. Hurry, to help them move this along so that they get started, that they keep up the momentum, because one of the things we know is people don't keep the momentum up, they drop off. So a part of this is making sure they keep going.
Hey, you look tense. Let me give you a massage. You don't mind, do you?
This is a cool strategy, bringing in a character that what they do is they kind of make things difficult for you. If this was a yes or no answer, they would add complexity. The complexity that this guy, Jim, is adding is basically saying, hey, don't worry about it. This isn't anything. This is just for fun. And it's supposed to make you question how you would respond. So here we see the answers that Sam might say. And as you notice, the pattern here is everything is either Sam's internal dialogue or Emma's dialogue and his dialogue with her. So the options are also very much what he would actually say. And then we choose what he would say in reply to her request. And then here we would drag and drop what we think.
Oh, of course. I'll see you on break. You bring the massage oil.
So let's talk about this specific interaction right now. So you see there's a setup here, and I talk about this in other videos and we'll get into more detail. But the idea here is that you've got this setup which gets you to, it's a situation that gets you to a choice moment, which is making a decision. And then right after the decision is made, we see the consequence of the outcome, basically, of what happens as a result of us choosing to say, maybe later I have a few emails to finish up, which is quite a passive response. We want Sam to be more assertive, and he's kind of laying down here. And so you see the consequence, and this is one opportunity for people to learn right away. They're like, oh, I don't think that was supposed to work out the way that worked out. But let's say they didn't get it. Let's say they're like, okay, sure, she'll bring the massage oil later. Here's what's another cool strategy that was used in The Broken Coworker. Massage oil, I should have said how I felt, but I didn't want to rock the boat. Hope that's the rest of her today. So what we see is the internal dialogue of a really awesome reflective character where he's going, I wonder if that was the right thing. So one of the things people worry about is when they craft these scenario-based experiences is, do people actually get the outcome? Is the consequence enough? Well, Broken Coworker obviously is over the top, right? To make an impact and make people amplify their emotions, because that's what we're trying to do here. But one of the things we're also doing is we're using Sam's reflections to teach you another lesson on how to think about it. Everything that we do in our interactive stories is to guide people towards a certain conclusion. We're trying to teach them a lesson, and therefore our words are carefully chosen. But what happens here is not only do people see the consequence, so that's lesson number one, but then now they see the second lesson, which is what Sam thinks about how he worked that out. So it's cool because it's not direct feedback saying, you didn't do that well, or that didn't work out so good. Sam is thinking to himself, I should have said how I felt. So that's something we might say as feedback, but he's saying that to himself, and therefore nobody is reacting in a poor way saying, hey, are you telling me how to think? No, 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 no. This is Sam's thoughts. Let's go on.
Hey, log into Facebook. I just uploaded my Cancun pictures. It was a wild vacation.
I'm going to be assertive here. Sounds like you had fun, and I don't see Facebook as work-related.
I'm going to get back to work now.
Oh, okay, Mr. Worky Work. I'll show them to Tom and tech support instead.
So, fun fact, obviously that's me in there, and I still have that blonde wig. I just can't get rid of it. It's so fun. Blondes have more fun, especially when they're mean bullies. Here we go. This is another one of those moments where we say, is this something that Sam approves of in his mind? Is he growing as an individual? I really surprised myself there. I think she really got my point. Poor Tom in tech support. So one of the things obviously you've also noticed is that this is very much a comic book layout. And the thing that when Ryan, my partner, was working with this on me, one of the things we did very strategically is he's obviously a huge comic book fan, and we created a contrast between these two characters. Remember, we're trying to amplify emotions here, amplify it also visually. And so you'll notice that Sam's wearing blue and I'm wearing hot pink to create this contrast between our characters.
Sam, you have big, strong muscles. Can you open up this pickle jar for me?
Now, if you're paying attention to also the learning goal in this piece, which is in essence, it's a portfolio piece. One of the things that I find that people should incorporate into their work is whenever you're crafting a portfolio piece, it should be contextual. Not only contextual to an audience that you've selected, but contextual to the industry you want to work in, and also that it solves a problem, that it actually has an outcome and a goal, because you shouldn't expect somebody to go through your experience without getting some value out of it. So, like I said, the goal of Broken Coworker is emotional intelligence. And one of the things that we did here with some of these scenarios that you'll find is the idea that sometimes what happens is people who get trotted on or get resentful when a situation arises that is not necessarily negative, but they frame it in that way, they become resentful, they actually dig their own grave, because what they do is they react poorly to situations that don't warrant that kind of response. And this is one of those situations. So that's exactly what we did here. Emma's just asking for help with a pickle jar, and she's saying it in the way that she would normally say it. But because if Sam is too sensitive and our audience is too sensitive and holds a grudge, then we actually respond to the situation in the worst possible way. So, no, Emma, I can see what you're doing and it's not amusing. Okay, but it will cost you a pickle. Oh, no problem. So what the most assertive one obviously will be maybe, okay, but it will cost you a pickle. So he's being playful, but also saying, this is, he's sending some boundaries, which is fantastic. Now, what I want you also to notice is that every single interaction has been a repeatable pattern of mechanics as well, of events. So what happens is we have panels that set us up to go to a choice moment. The choice moment then is presented to us in this way, on this side, and then we drag it over here and we see the consequence over here play out. And Every single one of these interactions is exactly the same way. It's a simple pattern. Once you've got that pattern down, you can repeat it over and over and over again. It makes the scope of your work easier. It also, what happens as far as I'm concerned, for the end user is they no longer wonder what's going to come up and how they're going to have to figure it out. It's not going to jar them out of the story. We want them to get lost in the story. We want them to start internalizing some of the messages that we're sharing. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to make everything...
I'm trying to eat pickles. What's wrong with you?
Nothing.
Obviously not the right choice. Basically what we're trying to do here is to get them so entranced into what's happening in the story. We don't want to make them wonder what to click next or how it's going to unfold, because that part is already taken care of. So it makes it easier for you to craft an engaging experience because you figure out a pattern that works, and it makes it easier for your audience because what happens is they can now get lost in the story. They don't have to wonder where the buttons are going to show up. So here I am. Let's go to the next one.
Hey Sam, it's been a rough week. We should do drinks after work.
All right, so fun fact for you, all of this was filmed on one of those little flip cams. 10 years ago, they were actually cool. It's a flip cam, was an HD flip cam, and all of the images and these videos were actually shot with this flip cam on a tripod, and the images that are all used in these sections are all just still shots from the video. And it's actually a really cool way to get contextual videos even when you're working on any project, is to take a video and then you have, hopefully, enough action in it that in its HD that you can just take those shots. And then we made it a little bit stylized with some filters. But otherwise, that's it. And it's super low tech. So this is not a complicated project by any means. In fact, every single year that Ryan and I have revisited this idea and this concept, what we wanted to do is, how do we make this more and more simple on the back end and production end so that the user experience does not get diminished in any way, but the designer experience gets better and better and better because you're able to leverage the technology and the resources that you have to produce more of these without feeling overwhelmed in any way, because you have a pattern and you know that what it takes to craft a story, which is that, you know, a protagonist who wants something and something's in the way, and then you have basically a learning goal that you're helping people achieve, and you can use all of that to create a contextual experience where you're no longer reinventing the wheel, but you're applying the same pattern to, you know, consistently create quality experiences that produce results and behavior change. So I'm going to choose something that is going to be assertive, maybe good for the team. So let's see this one.
I'll check with Jim, Tom, Susan, and Carol, okay?
Good idea.
Here we go. Here's Sam's reflection. At least I was clear about the kind of social relationships I'm willing to have at work. Painting the picture.
I know it's late, but can you convert these into PowerPoint slides for me?
So one of the things you'll find as well is how brief this text is. And I think that this is a demonstration of how powerful video is, because it says a lot. Those experiences and the tone can add so much. So that's here, I think that's really the key for using video, is that you can actually reduce the talking and make a lot of the words come through the tone and basically the video itself and the interactions. So all of these, like I said, are screenshots from our videos.
Sam, this is going to look really bad tomorrow.
I'm sure you'll figure something out.
Hey, there's been a few break-ins around here lately. Do you want to walk me to my car?
This is another one of those situations that we put in here that would challenge people who would be holding resentment. And it is about finding balance where people are asking you for help, even if you have had negative interactions with them in the past, because it shows that you've grown as a person and you're learning to let go. So this is one of those situations. I'd rather not, I'm in a rush, which shows resentment. No problem. You should take public transit instead, which is still a, so let's see. I'm going to choose, you should take public transit.
I live outside the city. Are you going to walk me or what?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
So here we get his feedback, the kindest response. Today I learned something about myself. I can't expect others to change. I need to sort myself out properly because I'm way more powerful than I think. We are planting seeds here with this story. So I wanted to show you here something that's that I think is a really awesome way to reintegrate some of the lessons, show people what they've done, be excited about what they're actually doing. And a part of it is actually showing people the lessons that they've learned as a result of this experience. So what happened is, we remember the feedback, right? What happened is people would make a decision, they would see the consequence, which is that repeatable pattern. We would show them how Sam thought about his actual decision there and what happened in that consequence, his reflection on it. And now we get to the very end, and you have one more opportunity to drive the lesson home. And it's, you know, it's not within the context of the character, but it is within the context of, here's the decisions you made, and I'll show you this. So here's what happens. You choose each of those single scenarios that you've been able to work through, and it shows you what you said, and then it gives you a very contextual feedback and more instruction as to how you should handle situations like that in the future. And we call this a modular epilogue. Basically, you're able to bring all the lessons back together and actually give people more instruction that's focused on them instead of just the character. So it's a third way of them getting feedback throughout the entire experience, which I think is super awesome. And what you have to consider is that this is also a great way for you to create that kind of curiosity of, you know, when you do those surveys and it's like, what animal are you? Well, now there's a curiosity as well, saying, I said this, I wonder, you know, if they still didn't get the lesson or they want more instruction on how they should have handled it better, guess what? We're giving that over here. So which is, I think, a third way for them to internalize that lesson, which is awesome. And of course, one of the things we're doing is with all these experiences is, if they didn't do so well, the great part is that now they're in a safe place where they can go back and try again. Try options that they didn't feel comfortable trying the first time because maybe they were too scared, or seeing what would be the worst case outcome. And there are other outcomes, because if you're not really getting the story, or you're not really getting the assertive piece of actually interacting with your bully, we don't want you to get to this very end. We want you to actually maybe see what happens if you do that. So I'll let you explore that on your own, maybe make some poor decisions to see what the results are. But that's all done on the back end, and it's actually quite simple. So what we're trying to do here as well is we're trying to encourage people to go through the experience again. Now, for some of you, you may have seen this through your instructional design course, and this was listed as a piece of scenario-based learning. What I want you to consider is that, you know, yes, it is, but also there's a really simple framework underneath this that makes it possible for you to develop these kinds of experiences without crazy overwhelm. And outside of that, there's actually, what's better is, I mean, I get emails from people all the time saying, I've seen Broken Coworker, it's wonderful, was my featured in my program, and all those other things. That's awesome. What's even better is when I get emails from people who have actually gone through this experience as adults or as a part of their harassment program because it is used in organizations to spark conversations about how to deal with people like that. For me, that is like the biggest win, because then it's actually being used in its context, and that's happened lots of times. So that's super fun. It's the best when somebody goes through your experience and lets you know that it actually was valuable and helped them make better decisions. I've actually had this lady reply to me, and she said, if I had taken Broken Coworker before I had been left my last job, I probably would have dealt with my bullying boss differently. So definitely not a win, but now she realizes that this is something that this is a skill set she can develop for herself. And that's exactly what I want these pieces to do, and that's what interactive stories are for. They're not only meant to start conversations, difficult conversations, they're not only meant to help you practice difficult situations in a safe place, but what they're also supposed to do is to help people who are completely unaware that there's a different world out there, or that there's a skill that they're missing, and it gives them the opportunity to discover that through somebody else's journey, and therefore they're more open to that journey. So if this was fun for you and you enjoy it and you want to craft Broken Coworker, guess what? I do this every single week with my students. We look at interactive experiences, we deconstruct them together, we strategize about how to contextualize them for their specific audiences. And the other thing that we do is we figure out how to make this even more simple on the back end, so that you, as the designer, as the creative director for these pieces, can know that you can deliver on them, but also that you can focus on the thing that is most important, which is making sure that these are tight stories, that they're contextual to the audience, they really resonate with them, and that these pieces don't overwhelm you. Because the thing is, these projects, they're creative projects, you're going to be driving them. You're going to be excited about them and also feeling confident that you can follow through on them. So if it sounds like something that you'd like to get into, or want to have a discussion about what it takes to actually create something, that would be wonderful. I'll put a link to book a call with me underneath the video, or if you're listening on the podcast, then it'll be in the description. But some of you may have already been watching my videos and seen Broken Coworker and gone through it many, 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 many times. And I dare say that probably the majority of you have not made progress on your very own portfolio piece, on your very own Broken Coworker. And why is that? Well, probably because you're just looking at the surface stuff, and maybe what you need is a little bit more of that hand-holding, guided feedback, tough love, and support needed to actually get this off the ground and contextualize it for what you want, so that there's less overwhelm, there's less of that, spinning in your mind about I'm not good enough, or I don't have the tech, or I don't have the skills. Listen, we do, like I said, coaching calls every single week, where not only me, but also Ryan, who is in Broken Coworker playing Sam, giving you feedback on how to improve the back end, how to improve the front end, how to craft that beautiful visual experience as well, because a part of this is how you put all those pieces together as well. So if that sounds exciting and that's something that you'd love to explore, to see if maybe you can do something for you, not for anybody else, but to up your own skill set and infuse your own ideas and creativity into the projects that you're going to be basically working on for the rest of your life, then I would love to speak to you. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you return. There'll be more videos like this, of course, me doing walkthroughs of my favorite interactive stories, deconstructing them in the context of what I do and what I teach, which is interactive storytelling. And if you found this useful and valuable, please share and like and subscribe, and I will talk to you next time, friends. Take care, everybody. Bye.